Brenda Donis, could you please introduce our guests and give a nice welcome to Bianca Fisher to Greeley Centennial Rotary.
I have the privilege today to introduce our speaker. And so with me is Bianca Fisher. She is the Executive Director of the Downtown Development Authority, also known as the DDA. You might be like, the DDA what? Because DDA is such a strange thing to say. But in my layman's terms, it means that Bianca and her team know everything about what's happening downtown, and they're basically making it happen. She's going to share all of that with us today. And I had the opportunity to meet Bianca about, we were just saying, probably 4 years ago, three plus years ago. It was when she, well, one of the times, it's when she came into the assessor's office and wanted to know everything there was to know about property tax and how the Downtown Development Authority was funded. And it's very complicated because she deals with this process called tax increment finance. And it is incredibly complicated. And in about an hour, it was so easy for me to see how successful the DDA was going to be under her leadership, because she understood the process, she was asking great questions, she was tracking, following along, and she had just this amazing way of fully understanding what we were dealing with. So it was really easy for me to say the Downtown Development Authority and all of downtown Greeley is in great hands under her leadership, because she is smart, she's capable, she asks great questions, she's business-minded, and on top of that, she has an incredible passion for downtown. She has worked for the DDA for 14 years in every single position, and so she knows everything there is to know. And in addition, her husband is a downtown business owner, so that passion runs deep in the family. So please join me in welcoming Bianca Fisher.
Much more gracious intro, but I appreciate it. I'm truly fortunate. We are incredibly fortunate in Weld County to work with such a great assessor's office. It does get technical and complicated, so I'm thankful for your and your team's graciousness in all my many questions over the years. So, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love what I do, and I'll just give a brief intro just to talk about what a DDA is, and then some of the fun things that we're doing, the great projects, events, all of the things that are happening downtown. So let's see. Oh, good. It is up. Maybe we'll just go to page view real quick. See if I'll just scroll down. So a DDA stands for a Downtown Development Authority. I joke sometimes people think we're the DA's office or the DEA, and they get a little bit nervous. Fortunately, we are not involved in either of those worlds, but we are involved in downtown development. So the DDA was actually a voter-approved district. Our district was actually, the Downtown Development Authority was formed in 1998 as an organization and then approved by City Council in 2003. When we formed our plan of development, we came up with this geographic area, which is about 55 blocks. So we extend to the south to about UNC's district, 16th, 17th Street area, and then to the north to about 3rd Street. So that just gives you a little bit encompassing overview. Really, our goal at the DDA is to promote and encourage private-public investment into downtown. We want downtown to be a lively, vibrant, great place for people to enjoy as visitors and as employers, as residents, as families, and for our community. We truly believe that downtown is the heart of our community. So, and I see a couple of our business owners here, and we are so thankful. So I thought I'd start by sharing just some of the new businesses. Obviously, there's so many. Gosh, we have over 300 businesses in the downtown area. If you look at all of the different industries, we're really fortunate to be the county seat and also home to a lot of the city functions with city council, city court, all of the city functions there. But just looking at kind of a recap over the since the start of 2021, so going back to last year, we have 32 new businesses that have opened in downtown Greeley. A great mix of some bars and restaurants, some retail. One in particular that I'm absolutely thrilled about is Natural Grocers. Many of you who have been in the community for a long time in downtown know that when Safeway left us, gosh, that was probably 8-9 years ago, it really left a gap in downtown. And so having Natural Grocers, they relocated from the west side of Greeley into downtown and been doing fantastic. And that's a great, it certainly doesn't fill the gap entirely, but we're incredibly fortunate and thankful to have them downtown and thriving as well. A lot of great entertainment recreation businesses as well. I always love it when people are like, well, what is there to do downtown? And it's my favorite question to get asked because we'll talk about some of the events that we do, but I'm absolutely thrilled about the type of experience-related businesses we have downtown. You can go play pinball at Stella's. You can go do yoga. We have 2 yoga studios downtown at Sacred Space and Balance Movement. You can go play board games at the Nerd Store or the new Greeley game night at the Boomer House. You can go ice skating. You can see a show at the Civic Center. You can catch live music at the Moxie. You can go play trivia at 477. You can go throw axes. Fun fact, I didn't know I had this skill, but I'm really good at throwing axes. I didn't know. I think my husband's a little worried. But you might discover you have a secret talent. So a lot of great places for people of all ages to come and actually enjoy downtown. Some great creative spaces. We are a part of the state designated Greeley Creative District, our entire downtown area, plus kind of the UNC's district as well. So we're incredibly fortunate to be home to really creative, wonderful industries, home to fantastic public art. We have the art trees that go down 8th Avenue. We've got dozens of murals. We've got just the rotating sculptures downtown. It's really vibrant from an arts and creative community. One of our favorite and just fun creative downtown industries outside of, you think about the creative arts and you think about paint and sculpture, but we have some really, really unique creative industries. One of them being Distortions Unlimited. Here's a monster maker we have in our district, and they've been on the Travel Channel show called Making Monsters, and just really fun, unique industries as well. So a couple businesses coming later this year. We'll have Sexy Sammy's will be their second location. They'll be located in one of the Maddie buildings on 8th Avenue, and then Austin's American Grill. So that will be in the 55 plus, which we'll talk about, but we're excited for them to be opening here at the end of October. So some of the projects, what's been happening in the private development world. This was a huge project, really landmark for downtown Greeley. In our history, at least in the past few decades, outside of the DoubleTree, which was really our first big redevelopment project in downtown, which I love that project because it speaks to the heart of our community. It is local investors. There were, I think, about 12 local investors that pulled together and made that project happen because they're passionate about our community and saw the need for a great hotel and conference center in downtown. But this is really the second. If you would ask me about 7-8 years ago, what's the biggest need downtown? What are you guys missing? Residential would have been my absolute first answer. In a lot of ways still is, but this project in particular, the apartments at Maddie, it combined, there's 3 total buildings at 221 units. It was about a $51 million capital improvement project. So certainly the biggest to date that we've had in downtown. Great mix of apartment types and a lot of amenities. They actually were a part of the Downtown Colorado Inc. organization, and they won last year for best project, which is really fantastic. If you think about some of the uses that were there, I think it really accomplished 2 goals in removing some of the light and also elevating the area and offering really first-rate housing options downtown. So we were thrilled to have that project completed, and their occupancy has been great. They've been kind of mid to high 90s. So that's really encouraging and definitely speaks to that need and desirability of being downtown. We've got several projects, private projects under construction. I did mention that 55 plus resort. So that's at 8th Avenue and 11th Street. The developer, Edison Equity, if you've been in Windsor, they actually have a project there, the 55 plus resort apartment. So this will be kind of a sister project to that one. But really great developers. It's an exciting project, obviously catered to the 55 and over crowd. Also, though, I did learn that 20% of their residents can be under that threshold. And so I told Neil, my husband, that we're taking the kids and moving in, because I don't want a yard to maintain any longer. And the thought of all these amenities sounds pretty good to me. So I think a lot of built-in babysitters perhaps too. But they're slated to get done this October, November. I think this is going to be a really great asset and really closer to the core. So you have our Maddie Apartments at 16th, 17th, 15th Street on 8th Avenue, closer to UNC's campus. This really brings some of that residential right near the core historic downtown. And then right adjacent to that project, we've got the Firestone Retail, the old Firestone Automotive Building. So we just call it the Firestone Retail Project. It'll end up being about a $5 million project. They're set to start construction here any day. They've got a bank slated to be in the north half of the building, and then the south half are looking for one or two retailers. So again, just kind of that great foot traffic and connecting those dots. And then adjacent to that site, on the other side of 11th Street, we've got a proposed project. Can't see too much, but there's a developer, an out-of-state developer that's looking at what will be downtown Greeley's biggest capital improvement project. They're slated at about 80 to 85 million. 257 units is what they're projecting, 5-story buildings. So I think it'd be a really fantastic project as well. The need is great, as you all know, in our community across the board for more housing. Obviously, infill and redevelopment is the name of the game in downtown. When you have limited area, we don't have the luxury of land and having, I'd love to see more single family homes, most definitely in the community, but these are really great fits for downtown. So a couple of these so that was the private side of things. Public side, we've got a couple of great projects too. We are absolutely excited about. If you have not seen or read about or heard from Matt Port, I don't know if he's spoken. He's a part of the other early morning Rotary group, but the LINK project is going to be truly one of a kind, not just for Greeley, but I think for our region. Our board was fortunate enough to go on a little hard hat tour a couple of weeks ago, and we got to see some of these spaces as it's being built out. Areas that they'll have woodworking and recording studios, and space where kids can play with clay, and they have a fake cadaver, and do learning and science and all of these great opportunities there. And someone laughed on the tour like, "Is there going to be books?" And Matt laughed and said, "Of course there will be." But I love their forward-thinking nature, and some of the stacks will be movable so they can have more space to have events in different aspects of learning and teaching. And it's really remarkable. And I love, if you see that aerial of the construction, you'll see that big giant circle. That actually will be open. So this courtyard that you could actually walk into. So if it's snowing out there, the snow is coming in, and if it's raining. So it's really kind of this neat, I absolutely love the design. Obviously, a lot of tributes to the water wealth in our community in the region. On the exterior facade, it's all of the different rivers and kind of tributaries in the region. Really fantastic project. We're absolutely thrilled to have this coming up. They should be done construction by year end is what they're projecting, and then they'll take kind of the first half of next year to really train their staff, get in all of that equipment and furniture, and then hopefully be open by about May. So exciting to come. Some of the public improvements we're excited about, things that are happening downtown. We just wrapped up on a monument project. We have some wayfinding signs, some placemakers to, again, kind of welcome people from the different entry points on 8th Avenue, East 8th Street, and then West 10th Street. And then some directionals and then bike wayfinding signs. We're so fortunate in our community and downtown to have the Poudre River a stone's throw away from us. That trailhead at Island Grove is fantastic to hop on the trail. And we have residents downtown, and if you live in a downtown area, the best thing is not having to drive everywhere. So we wanted to find routes that were more safe and accessible for pedestrians and cyclists. So that was an exciting project we just wrapped up, and we actually did receive a grant from CDOT for about $100,000 for that project. So we were excited about that. And then the city actually is making some major improvements on 16th Street. They received a grant from CDOT as well, a $2 million grant. What we're looking at there are some widened sidewalks, probably reduced traffic lanes, potentially roundabouts at the 9th Avenue and 10th Avenue intersections. They've done a lot of public engagement and outreach, obviously a lot of traffic studies and engineering. So that work is still in progress, but we're excited to see some of those changes. That's really our connecting point. We call that our university district. And that's really the space that downtown intersects with our university. So we want to strengthen that as well. And to that note, I could not be more thrilled and just have to give a huge shout out to Andy Feinstein, President Feinstein at UNC. We have had such a great partnership and just a vibrancy of connection and partners. One of the things that I love to do and why I love my job is because we get to work with our partners. We are a small organization. I have 2 staff people, with a very limited budget, but because of our partnerships with UNC, with the chamber, with the city, with our county, we can actually create great impact in the downtown area, not to mention our private partners as well. We are so, fortunate in our community to have passionate individuals and families who are really committed to the growth and vibrancy of our downtown area and the community as a whole. And then one final one on the public improvement side is, you probably read about it over the years. It's been kind of a slow process, but the quiet zone along the railways, which is also really great, especially with the build out of residential along there. I know the train museum was a little bit sad about it because they do love the sound of the train, but it will still be coming through, but hopefully a little bit quieter for our residents. So that's a big part of kind of what we do on the development side of things and public improvements. But another piece of what we do are events. We have seen downtown that events are such an incredible driver to downtown. So Allison in our office, she is the queen of fun and events. If you've been to a Friday Fest, you've seen her on the stage and heard her loud booming voice, and she is just absolutely fantastic. And Karen as well in that capacity. So Friday Fest is a pretty special event for us downtown. We actually did them for a number of years, but it's been 11 years this fall when the state of Colorado passed the legislation to allow for the creation of a common consumption district. Greeley we were the first in the state to actually implement it. And we used that in conjunction with our Friday Fest kind of outdoor music model. And it's been incredibly successful. So much so that we expanded it for a summer to every single Friday from the end of May through mid-September. So we've got live music, we've got face painters, balloon artists, we've got a bubble machine going, and it's just a great time for family and friends and neighbors to gather. So if you haven't been recently, come check it out. We've got the Chicano Heat Band tomorrow. So come enjoy that. And then a whole host of other events. So we've got our Blarney on the Block, which we finally had this year after a 2-year hiatus. That's our St. Patrick's Day celebration. The farmers market, which is actually put on by the city of Greeley, but we're fortunate to have that downtown. In the winter, they're at Zoe's, and then in the summertime, they're out at the historic train depot where the Chamber of Commerce is. The arts picnic is also put on by the city, so that'll be coming up later this summer, or later this month. I can't believe it's July. And then Monster Day. Monster Day is a fun event too that we do in collaboration with the city and the chamber. That'll be August 20th, really to celebrate all things Monster, which has been such a huge hit. And then Oktoberfest, that's our big DDA fundraiser we have out in the park, really honoring our heritage in Greeley. There was a large kind of Germans from Russia, interestingly enough, kind of a unique history here in the region. But we celebrate with the local craft beer in the region and lots of food and games and entertainment. And that leads us to Trick or Treat Street, which is always a great time. We say it's our absolute favorite event because it requires very minimal effort and lots of joy and really fantastic costumes. So we always love that one. And then our holiday open house. And this is our opportunity. We always do it on Small Business Saturday, right after Thanksgiving. We get to celebrate our many wonderful, fantastic small and local business owners. And then First Friday is kind of a more loose program, but we are so fortunate to have a lot of great creative spaces and art spaces in downtown. So we try to promote all of the different artist gatherings and gallery openings on the first Friday of each month. But we've got a great calendar of events. And when I'm done here too, I've got some fun brochures that have event details and everything. But if you are not on our newsletter, be sure to sign up and you'll find that there's more to do in downtown every week than you'll have time for. So, and like I mentioned earlier, this is just a fun list of like, well, what else, if we're not programming events, what is there to do? And I always tell people this story. I went to UNC, I came up, I wasn't from Greeley. I didn't know there was a downtown. I happened to just go on a walk and kind of stumble upon it. And I was not one to be a patron at the bars. And so I kind of felt like there wasn't a whole lot of options as a college student. And I'm so happy to actually present this slide because there are so many more opportunities for people of all ages and just preferences to be able to enjoy all of the fun downtown. So if you're looking for something to do, there's more than you can schedule in a single weekend. So definitely stay in touch with us. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We've got our email newsletter, like I just mentioned. Happy to come and chat with any groups. We just love to get out and hear what you're doing and be advocates for downtown. So please stay in touch. And this is my contact information. We office right below the Moxie Theater right on 9th Street. So if you ever want to swing by, definitely feel free to. Otherwise, I would love to take any questions. If you guys have any fact, fiction, if I need to dispel any myths, happy to do so. One final thing I'll mention too is we are actually working on a strategic master plan update in conjunction with the city of Greeley for downtown. So if you have not seen or taken the downtown survey, we would love to hear your perspective. If you just go on to our Facebook page, there's a link there. But really just wanting to know, why do people come downtown? What's missing? What do you love about downtown? Just really looking at areas of opportunity and growth for the next phase of downtown. So please, we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback as well. Yes, Neil.
What metric is downtown now hitting that out-of-state developer, for example, is now like, okay, that's viable for us now, but maybe it wasn't 5 years ago. What's kind of flip that switch?
Excellent. It's such a good question. And I think it's so many things, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Oh, thank you. Good point. So the question was, really, what are the metrics? What are the things that we're looking at that would entice an out-of-state developer to come look at downtown Greeley and say, hey, I'm going to, invest a potential $80 million project in the area, which is a fantastic question. I've been at this kind of a long time, and it's certainly, I think it builds, right? Everyone has kind of laid this foundation. I can't talk about downtown and not talk about Bob Thornton, who is, 89 years old, and him and his wife, Betty, just laid this incredible foundation of purchasing, buildings and offering free rent for multiple years just to attract businesses, just to attract people to be down here. So again, it's kind of this cycle of building and growing, right? Where I think, for us, the events, Friday Fest, and actually having people downtown, that was a turning point, and I think led to a lot of the growth that's starting to happen on 8th Avenue. But I will say it's interesting because we don't have, it's kind of fun because I think there's hard data metrics, and especially if you look at some of those, you think, oh, well, median area, income is not super high, or some of these others that you traditionally look at. But anyone who's actually been a part of downtown and seen, like the Maddie, I think that was a great starting point because it's the proven concept to say, hey, here's what we're getting in rent, here's our occupancy, there's room in this market. It is interesting, it's that tension point, right? I feel a little bit protective of, I love that I know most every one of our business owners and property owners, and there is definitely a sense of being local. So I think there's that dynamic where you don't want it to get out of hand and just, be completely owned by out-of-state folks you don't know and don't have that same vested interest. What I think has been really intentional and clever of Richmark is a big kind of stakeholder along 8th Avenue is finding partners. And so they're equity partners. They would become equity partners in this deal because it was their property and land. And so again, it's finding those partnerships where you can have a little bit of sense of local passion and control. So again, I think it is everyone doing their part. It's definitely the proven, on the residential side. It is the fact, it's funny, I asked that very question to the developers of the 55 plus. I said, hey, I just have to ask why did you look at downtown Greeley? Because their other project, which is fantastic. You know, their residents can walk to the golf course. I was like, newsflash, there's no golf course in downtown. Just want you to know that up front. And he giggled and said, you know, you guys have done such a fantastic job. He said, our whole model is predicated on people being out, our residents being out and about and experiencing it, you know, just everything in the community. And so they obviously do a lot of program trips and this, that, and the next thing. He's like, gosh, you guys, there's a movie theater, your events are fantastic. There's a civic center. You've got, you know, all of these great things for people to do. It's a no-brainer. Which was really encouraging to hear, because sometimes, again, it's not necessarily on the market demographics. It's more about that quality of life, which I think we've all come, especially through COVID. I think, you know, it's like the last place you want to be is your house. You want to be able to actually, and I think just even the smaller footprints where people are living, it's more of that kind of outward community space as well. So, yeah, I think that's really encouraging and a big part of it.
What is the status of going on the east side of the tracks and or connecting more of the river into downtown?
Yes.
And are there any thoughts towards like a mercado or something like that to celebrate this area's heritage?
Absolutely. So the question was, you know, what's being done to really connect to the east side of the tracks, to the river, to the area. There was actually the kind of Mercado district. It's a really excellent question. And I'm excited to say that I think more attention and eyes are actually on that. And it's come up at several of our stakeholder and advisory meetings for this next planning process. You know, with our district being a very defined 55 blocks, you know, we statutorily obviously can expend money only within our district, but we also recognize that there is an impact in the surrounding neighborhoods. And especially east, we have so many great amenities. So I don't know if you've read about, there is a group that's looking at a Parks and Rec district on the east side, which would be a huge draw. So to be able to have space, you know, where you could go out and boat or paddleboard or just recreate in that manner. And then actually connect the Poudre Trail, River Trail Board has actually been talking about how to connect, you know, the trail from Island Grove all the way to 8th Street. So there's a lot of different discussions that are being had, and we're absolutely thrilled about all of them, and to whatever extent possible, supportive of everything, just because, again, especially as our community grows west, which is great, that's, you know, we have so much resource and land out west, but there's still so much of an opportunity and a culture and a history on the east side of our community as well. So I think all of those pieces will come together over time. It's going to be a bigger endeavor, right? It's so much easier when you can build in greenfield than looking at these areas that are in the floodplains, and a lot more challenging to develop. Any other questions? Yes.
You know, as a lifetime Greeley person, who's go downtown and said, Jason Bennett, my mom thought my dad was in school. But what brought us back was the brewery, the distillery, her friends, Wellworks, all these others. Was the other ones, one of our club members. And I told Bob Point, I said, you would have never thought that would be kind of wrong. I think that's a big part.
Yeah, no, that's, you know, just the comment was made that a big part of growth has been all of our, you know, manufacturers of spirits and craft beer, and it really is big in our region. So my husband's business is Wellworks, and I tell this story, it's a funny one because the property that they are located in was owned by Bob Toynton, who was the chairman of our board at that time. And so my husband, you know, approaches Bob about this lease, and Bob didn't get it. Like, he's the wine guy, to be fair. There's a nice strong connection to Joseph Phelps Vineyard in Napa. But, you know, he kind of was stumped about it. And, you know, honestly, he wasn't really thrilled about the idea. And I said, Bob, I've got to tell you, I think this is going to be really great. And so we, you know, it took a little bit of nudging and convincing. And lo and behold, Bob and I had lunch over at the brewery and ate over there. And he was just wide-eyed. I mean, it was a really fun experience to see that. Sometimes it's incredibly unexpected. I get a firsthand look on the other side of it, into that business ownership, where people, you know, would ask him of like, what are you doing in downtown Greeley, and what is this experience? And to see a business to become a destination and do something really well, and then be supported by the community, and a lot of folks who are outside of the community as well, and becoming that destination. is really remarkable. And they're not the only ones. 477 Distilling and Syntax and Wiley Roots just on the other side. We really do have a great mix of alcohol manufacturers who, again, it's so much more. You know, I think about gone are the days where people just kind of assume it's like a very strange place where, and really in Colorado, you would understand, you could just take, I think our kids have visited more breweries than playgrounds probably at this point, but where it really is an environment that's friendly and open and welcoming. So that's a wonderful point. Yeah.
What's the chance of bringing more retail?
Yes, thank you. That's my favorite. That's like my passion right there. The question was bringing more retail downtown. You know, I think it's so interesting. It's kind of that chicken and egg scenario, right? Like, do you have retail and it brings the people, or do you have the people first and that brings the retail? And I think a big part, and a lot of models have shown that as you grow in your residential capacity and you have people who are actually feet on the ground living in an area, your residential capacity, and especially you know, on the metric side of things, a lot of retailers, even at small, are looking at, well, who's in the area, who's going to support me? And I think that's going to really start to shift as we, especially with some of these bigger residential projects that are coming online. But it is a big focus of ours and also of the city of Greeley's. We've recognized, especially restaurants as well. If you work downtown and you kind of make the same loop of 4 or 5 places, it'd be great. That's why I think Austin's is going to do really well. And I think, again, for them, you know, they're a Fort Collins restaurateur. You know, again, to Neil's question of kind of they're going to prove themselves in the market. And then I think there'll be some other heads that start turning and saying, gosh, they're doing really well in downtown Greeley, and start taking a look. We actually have a coffee shop who's based in downtown Loveland, a fantastic coffee shop. They're under contract on a building downtown. They're like, we just love what you guys are doing, and we'd love to have a second location here. So again, I love that it's still that local component, but we definitely need more of it. I couldn't agree more.